Hi guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Clear to Stand podcast. I'm here today with Roel. Hey Roel, how are you?
Hello. Good morning. I'm doing well.
Thank you. And then so today we have Matt and Mac from Ekahau, and they're here to kind of give us an update on kind of everything that happened at Ekahau this year. Give us an update on the Ekahau AI Pro. Give us an update on the Sidekick 2, and talks about the ECSE program as well. How are you guys doing, Mac? How are you?
I've never been better, guys. Thank you very much for having us in your show again. It has been a while. I missed you tremendously, and I am bursting with energy and happiness being here again. So thanks a lot for asking. Matthew, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. And yeah, really honored to be on here with two guys I'd say are close friends now as well, as not people just we listen to regularly on podcasts. But yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you guys for joining. It was great to even see you guys at WLPC Prague. So always good to get back together.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, Matt. I was going to say, before we get started, why don't you guys introduce yourself, just for the people who don't know you yet? Matt, do you mind starting?
Of course. So my name is Matt. I'm joined here with Mac. We do the same role at Ekahau, so directors of product marketing and ECSE. It's a really cool, fun job. And when you mentioned earlier on about giving an update of what happened in the past year of Ekahau, and I mean, like, what a year it's been at Ekahau since I think we've only been there for just a little over a year now. And if I just think about some of the updates and things that have come out this year, it's crazy the amount of innovation and new products and stuff that's come out. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind, but it's been a good fun, good roller coaster ride to see so many new things happen. And we're really excited to talk to everyone about some of the things today, because there's been so much. I wouldn't be surprised if some people have missed some of the cool little features in AI Pro, or some of the new features in the mobile applications like the Analyzer app, for example, or just want to know some of the new nitty-gritty details about the Sidekick 2 and its capabilities. And then finally, the private 5G plan that we just released as well. So yeah, just a few things that have come out this year.
Yeah, you guys aren't
awesome.
Slowing down.
Yeah. So why don't we start talking about AI Pro, because you guys released the new AI Pro earlier this year, which is like the new version of the main Ekahau application we use on Windows, Mac OS. Why don't you give an overview of the new features that you released with the AI Pro? And also maybe you can talk about the new look and the new user interface.
Can I start with this one? So
okay,
I am super excited about the AI Pro, actually, because not only it has a dark mode. I love dark mode. It was tiring to me before a little bit, but the main feature for me is the automatic wall calibration that we have added. So I'm not sure about you guys, but for me, it's big, it's massive, it's practical, it brings tons of value. I use it every time I do a pre-design survey on site. So we will talk about that a little bit more. Then Rip and Replace simulator called the Network Simulator inside AI Pro is also a new thing that I find extremely valuable. So you can use the tool to simulate how would replacing old APs with new ones, maybe 6 gigahertz enabled, would look like. It can save you time, tons of time and money. And another thing that I'm quite proud of is the new channel planner. So we will talk about what's changed versus the old channel planner and AI Auto Planner, but I don't want to steal the show. So Matthew, why won't you talk us through the AI Auto Planner, and let's kick off with diving deeper into each of these new additions.
I would love to. Well, Ekahau AI Pro, like you said, Francois, I got quite a bit of an overhaul and kind of a new look and feel, but the overall goal was to make AI Pro look very unified with our other applications. So if you're going from our mobile applications such as Survey or Analyzer application to AI Pro, hopefully it should look and feel the same with where we've got things placed, like the different buttons, for example, and stuff. So I know it felt like a big change to some of the users that have been used to using Ekahau for quite a few years going to the new version, but hopefully people have started to get a little bit more familiar with Ekahau AI Pro. And one of the biggest things obviously was to add the capabilities to design for 6 gigahertz, but that wasn't the only thing that was in mind when Ekahau was creating Ekahau AI Pro. It was also to come up with a way to be able to help our users automate tasks and make tedious things a little bit quicker, so you can work on more projects faster and take away some of that, tedious work that sometimes you have to do. So one of the things that have come in with Ekahau AI Pro is our brand new AI Auto Planner. We did have an Auto Planner in the previous version of Ekahau, but this one has been really, really ramped up to help you come up with a great design right first time. So the Ekahau AI Pro, if you've used it, you can design across like multiple floors. You can use whatever kind of access point you're planning to use for your deployment, and it does all of the channel configuration for you at the same time. So it's a really powerful tool. I've used it lots to help me get started with my designs. It can save you a ton of time if you're working on a building a site that's got multiple floors. Really great place to get you started. So Ekahau AI Pro with the auto planner has been one of the features that have been, very well received so far. Mac mentioned about the auto wall calibration. I know that's one of his favorite ones. It's also mine. So what do you need to be able to do? Auto wall calibration, collected some data with a Sidekick. That can be the previous Sidekick or Sidekick 2. And then you would then have your survey file where you've got that validation data collected. Then you can draw your simulated walls on top of that file. And then rather than, before, if you think about how you would try and come up with some wall attenuation measurements, like doing the manual way of setting up an AP or use an AP that's already on site and then go and stand on one side of a wall and then stand on the other side of the wall, look at the measurements and try and subtract something to get that value. Well, a lot of work went into some algorithm for AI Pro to be able to look at that survey data, look at the simulated walls that you've drawn, and then automatically calibrate what that attenuation is. And the feedback from this feature alone has been just outstanding. I had people in my ECSE class a couple of weeks ago just telling me how much time this saves them now. And how much they just love using it. It's one of the probably the most go-to feature now. So it's really nice to hear that feedback.
I think that is one of my favorite features. It just saves so much time for me because I honestly do not like drawing walls. It's one of my worst things. And then having to be more accurate in your design. Like I've had people go and take measurements for me and then be able to see what the calibration is of the, adjust the wall attenuation. And for me, that's a lot more useful to be accurate in our designs.
And do you need to do anything else in your surveys in order to be able to do it? Guys, do you think like you need to be a little bit more accurate, or you just take any survey that is a high quality survey and can you use just that? What do you think?
No, I was going to say about that feature is, you have to be one thing that I think is good to keep in mind is that you have to be accurate in gathering the information if you want the application to give you, good estimation of what the wall is. But one thing that I thought about when it came out is how it would change some of the workflows that we've been used to. Because in the past, what I would do is I would do a design and then I would go on site to do some AP on a stick and kind of validate the AP propagation after the fact and tweak my design accordingly. Now with the wall, calibration tool for, let's say regular or simple environment, I can go in when I do my first visit to gather some requirements, take pictures and all. I can also take a measurement or a few measurements of a few walls and then integrate that into my design. So I don't need to go back for an AP on a stick, right? So I think it's nice because it helps to save time as well. And we know these AP on a stick trips can be costly sometimes for the customer. So it's nice that we could, on some environment, not for everything, obviously, but on some environments, it can be very helpful to save us some time there, I think.
Yeah, and that's the exact feedback we've been getting from so many of our users. So what Roel just mentioned about what he finds very tedious is drawing the walls and then making sure he's got the right value set. So with Ekahau AI Pro, obviously we had before the automatic detection of walls when you use CAD files. We've still got that there. So if you was to import a CAD file into AI Pro, we can automatically detect the walls. There was an update to that as well, so it can actually not only just read where the walls are, but actually tell you what those wall values are if it can recognize it. So that can also save you a little bit more time. And we do have a feature inside of Ekahau AI Pro that if you do use a bitmap file, you can run like it's in beta, but it does work quite well, even on a JPEG or a PNG file, to work out where the walls are, and then save you a little bit of time with that too. So
but
you can
really add two things there quickly, Matt, before we continue. For the wall detection in beta, you need to have high contrast floor plans. It's not too difficult, of course, but you need to have a good quality, high contrast straight lines kind of thing without any echo behind them. For the automatic wall calibration feature, we need to walk on both sides of the walls Okay, so good quality survey. I was always working on both sides of the walls because it's a very important thing and always was even before that feature. But we have to make sure that we have data on both sides of the walls for the AI Pro to make the calculations. And the third thing, I completely forgot what I was about to say, so I will let you go with the conversation.
Well, the only third thing I'd like to add there is that you can really tell the team Ekahau is just trying to come up with ways to speed up those tedious tasks, so that the manual wall drawing, the detection of the walls, and using different types of files and stuff as well, just makes it a lot more faster for you to carry on working on more designs, more validation projects, troubleshooting projects that you're working on. Anything like that is just trying to speed up those processes for our users.
One thing I wanted to ask you about is for the AI auto planner.
Yes.
So Matt, you talked about it. You talked about the different iteration. It's actually pretty cool. The animation that we get, we can see the number of iterations. One day I run in on a big project and I got 804,000 iterations. Wow. It was pretty funny. But the question that I had is, do you guys have, like, internally, do you guys have stats on how people use the tool and which API are used, and is it internal versus external, in order to make some of the decisions you make in designing the new features? First question. Second question is, are you planning on improving the AI planner so we can give it more information for a little bit more complex environments where we have maybe multiple model of APs, or maybe external antennas, or areas where we don't want the AP to be installed, stuff like this? Is it stuff that you guys are thinking about?
Yeah, so a great question there. Let me try and unpack both of those questions. The first one being that does the team look at what's being used and trying to come up with a smarter way of using the algorithm? And yes, I think that obviously the team's looking at what's being used most, and trying to always find ways to improve that algorithm. So yeah, they definitely take a look at that. And then the second part of your question is that any ways that they can improve the AI auto planner, they are. So some of those things that you suggested are great suggestions. I know that the team are aware of those, and hopefully we'll see in future iterations of it as well that we'll be able to configure some more things too. So I'm sure with future updates, these things will probably be there that you're asking for.
But even today, if you want to have a glimpse into the future, we will be talking more about the new tool, Ekahau Private 5G, and we already have the assistant planner, or assisted planner, I think that's what we call it officially, where you can start placing access points around, for example, like bigger radios or access points with directional antennas in places where you know that you have to place them in order for your design to work flawlessly, or maybe you have some limitations when it comes to mounting or preferences where it's easier for you to run a cable. So we'll start with those manually, and then after you place them on the map, or while you are placing them on the map, the algorithm in the background, it recalculates the position of all the remaining APs required to hit your requirements, which is quite cool. We can't comment about it coming to the AI Pro or when, but you can see that in one of Ekahau's tools, and it's quite cool if you ask me.
Okay, so that one's in the private 5G planning, which is also new. I know a lot of us are looking at private 5G and using that as another, something in our toolkit to provide for people. And you guys obviously have seen private 5G be something that is gaining momentum. So you've included it in Ekahau, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
yes.
Like sorry, Matt, like you said, Roy, a lot of people wanted to be able to have that in their toolkit to be able to design for private 5G networks, and with Ekahau now we have that option. So we'll talk a little bit more detail about Ekahau private 5G a little bit later on in the show, I'm sure. But just at a high level, with Ekahau now, if you've got a current Ekahau Connect license, you get access to the Ekahau private 5G planner for 1 year. So it's pretty cool that you can just request access, and then
you have access whenever you want and for how long you want, but it's free for 1 year. So until the end of next year, assuming that you are a Connect subscriber now, you don't have to pay anything for that application.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the planner a little bit later in the show, and let's go back to a few more features of the AI Pro. So the one that I wanted to talk about really is the channel planner as well. So its behavior, it's changed. It's exactly the same when it comes to user interface and how users feel when they are using it. But few things that are new is the addition of 6 gigs, of course. So that's granted. But previously, we were trying to avoid CCI, cross-channel interference, channel contention, induced by the access points, okay? But as we know, this is not the only CCI that we have. We also have CCI induced by clients, and also clients-induced CCI is probably worse than the access point-induced CCI. So now we are trying to see through the lens of the clients and understand where the clients will most likely be associated to which radio. And then we want to avoid having CCI not only for APs, but also for our clients. So I think that's quite a big change. And the algorithm is not like slower or more cumbersome. No, on the contrary, it's still very fast, but now it's more practically useful for our designs. So I have even more trust in Channel Planner, to the point where I probably would use Ekahau for my static planning of my channels, and then I would convert that to the configuration of whatever vendor that we use in our Wi-Fi installations.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never knew that AI Pro the Channel Planner took into consideration maybe device CCI as well. So that's new in the algorithm, and I'm assuming it's, I don't even know how that even goes into play, actually. Like, there's so many devices, I'm not even sure how it would work. But would it matter if the type of device somebody adds into the project? Because I know you can add, when you're doing capacity, you can add a type of device that's in the project.
I'm not sure about the nitty-gritty details of how devices' capabilities would affect the Channel Planner. We can ask that question, but I don't think we are using that sophisticated input data.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's
it's probably more about the like the omnidirectional aspect of a client versus if you have directional antennas, maybe that's what they're looking at.
And also the position of a client, like previously we could have a channel reuse from 2 radios on the same channel. Like, we had an access point and like 2 access points in between, and another AP might be coming back to the channel that we've used previously on the other side of the wall. And now we will understand that we might have clients in the middle of the wall connected to both of those APs, and we will steer clear from reusing the frequency on those channels, because clients would overlap and access points probably won't.
Yeah.
So that's good.
So yeah, it's probably important then to also create those requirement areas, so which I'm pretty sure the algorithm will probably take in consideration the areas that you're defining as where you want coverage, and then that adds to the algorithm and improves the placement of APs, channels, that kind of thing. Because I like using Channel Planner. It does make it a lot faster. Let that algorithm kick in and then adjust things as I need to. Right, like you said earlier, Mac, is converting that configuration to whatever vendor you're using for APs.
Yeah, it's typically better than me, the Channel Planner, so don't mind using it. Okay, Matthew, what else do we have in the AI Pro that we would like to discuss? A few more little tiny improvements. Let's talk about the improvements to GUI, some new things, latest and greatest. Let me start with one. My favorite new feature that really blows my mind professionally as a user of Ekahau for a very long time is batch renaming of the APs and batch adding nodes to the access points. I will tell you why. Like batch rename. Now, previously it was like AP1, AP2, AP9, AP10, so 1 digit going to 2 digits. Not everyone was too pleased with it, including myself. Now you can choose your own format. You can name it like AP dash, and then in curly brackets you put XXX, for example, and it means that Ekahau will use 3 digits now to name it like AP001, 002, and so on. There is also more logic when it comes to the order of how these access points are named, so I love that. And batch adding nodes to the access points is a massive thing for me, because try to imagine like carpeted office spaces, which is most of the designs that we do for like most of us. I know some guys, including like, me and Matt, that we are specializing in like designs for warehouses and stuff. But for most carpeted office spaces, you have 100 APs, and most of them will have the same mounting instructions. If you are using AP nodes to tell your cabling guys how to mount the AP, you can just do it all in one go, which is a massive, massive time saver for me. What do you guys think about it?
Yeah, I used to spend hours doing
features?
That. Yeah, well, before you guys, I did it. I've kind of automated the stuff on my own, but I used to spend hours doing that, and I know it can be a pain. The tags can help though, because you can do multi-edit of tags on, or I guess you can edit tags on multiple APs at a given time. So that kind of helped in the meantime. But the fact that you can multi-edit AP notes is it's good, really good.
Yeah, and I use the AP renaming quite often because I have customers and projects where they want to use that predictive to upload to certain dashboards, right? And being able to change it from simulated AP to the actual AP naming convention that they use is going to be much more efficient, because then it customizes it to the project as well, right? So you're not just having someone look at simulated APs, and that bothers me as well. So that's why I rename.
Yeah. So let me tell you one thing that will probably please you both. You have your channel plan. You have your APs named inside Ekahau. It's spotless. You said that you like the integration with vendors maps and stuff, and we agree. So more vendors integration is coming, API based, so you won't have to use ESX files anymore. And it's quite massive because you can make your pedantic plan inside Ekahau, and then with one click of a button, or even without clicking a button, maybe it's it's automated integration, you will see your site inside your vendor's dashboard. Because who has not spent hours or tens of hours dropping access points from the list to the map, making sure that we have the match of the MAC address of the access point with a name of the access point, using Excel table on one screen and then having a vendor's dashboard on the other. It was painful, and the integration is coming. So I'm also quite excited about this one.
Oh, cool. Okay. All right. Looking forward to that.
And more we integrate maps into the vendor tools. And like you said, more and more the name we put into Ekahau becomes important, because you can use that to validate a few things when the APs are being installed. So it becomes like the source of truth for the project. So it's good that you guys are working on that. So it's one less piece that can break in the process.
Yeah, one tip for anyone listening today is that keep your AP hostname convention to less than 15 characters. Sometimes you see people put in that crazy long AP hostname where it's got like the site, the floor, the cabinet it's connected to, something else.
The room number.
Room number.
First, it was installed the access point.
So it's, I don't know, like 20, 25 characters. Sometimes you see it, but then at the very end, that's where you put your AP1, AP2, AP3, AP4. So I even had someone come up to me very recently in one of the ECSE classes, like, hey, Matt, how come I've got so many of the same access points on the floor? And I start to look at them, I can see all the SSID and stuff got a different MAC addresses, and the access point, of course, got different MAC addresses. So I knew what had happened here is that their hostname convention was just so long, it was cutting off the important part where it's going to tell you, the unique identifier for the access point. So that's a tip for anyone listening, to keep your hostname and convention to under 15 characters. Just a couple more features on AI Pro that I feel like we have to bring up before we move on to talking about like the new Sidekick 2. Is the network simulator tool. So it's one of our really popular new features that's being heavily used by pre-sales engineers, like sales engineers, or even when you've been called out to come and do a new design for a customer. I don't know how many times when I was doing professional services, I got asked, we want to upgrade to the latest, greatest access point. We don't really want to pay for a new design or pay to have any new cables run. Can we just take out all of these old access points, keep their current locations, and throw up these brand new, shiny, latest and greatest access points? And we said, well, you can do that, but if the Wi-Fi didn't work too well before, and you take that approach again, it's not going to work too well now. So, but a lot of people find it hard to like visualize, or their concepts is they're not too familiar with Wi-Fi, how it works. So they're like, oh, I've got these old access points, I could just buy the new ones, turn the power up, or this, that, and the other, and it's going to work great. And we all know that, well, I'm sure everyone listening on the show today knows that that isn't the case, but actually being able to show people is quite a hard thing, because before, what you'd have to do is you'd have to actually go and do that physically new installation. So the purchase of the same amount of access points, but the newer version, then physically pay someone to go rip out the old ones, put the new ones in, and then the looks on everyone's faces when they're disappointed that the Wi-Fi still sucks, because how they wanted the Wi-Fi to work 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, completely different to how they want the Wi-Fi to work today. So what they're really going to probably need is a new design, not just using those same locations. But now with our network simulator tool, what you can do is if you go and collect a passive site survey using the Sidekick, what you can do is you can actually simulate upgrading that current model of access point that's already installed to a new model access point. It could be 6 gigahertz. It could just be the latest version Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 5, whatever access point you want to change to. It can be the same vendor, a different vendor. And then you can show the stakeholder, hey, look, just upgrading to this new access point, you're still going to have these coverage issues. Your network's still going to be failing in those areas. It's not going to perform how you want it to. So rather than waste everyone's time and money by getting it wrong first time, why don't we do a proper design and then get it right first time?
Yeah, I like your use cases there, Matt, very quickly. You said that you can simulate replacing old with new. Okay, cool, that makes sense. But what I've seen being used many times is replacing new with new. So you have a brand new installation with a bad design and it doesn't work. And you have vendor X, and then you think replacing it with vendor Y is going to fix your issues. And then you rip and replace and it still doesn't work. So no, not going to be the case. If it didn't work for vendor X, it probably won't work for vendor Y as well. All the vendors, they are quite nice these days, so it really doesn't matter that much from the RF perspective. So fix your design and then move on with your life.
Yeah. And I find that with using Network Simulator, when you do those kind of rip and replace scenarios, it does give you statistics on Ekahau where it says, all right, you went from this vendor to this vendor. It actually looks, 10% better, or it looks worse. And then once you start modifying that design, you could actually then, like with the channel planner, see even more improvement with accuracy and adding APs to cover those gaps. So it's not like you just tell somebody, your stakeholder, like, here's what we need to do. At least you can come to them with numbers, which a lot of managers love to see. If you can say, hey, I swapped out vendor X with vendor Y and it's a 10% decrease in, coverage, then they might be able to listen to you because they love
and
these
also
numbers.
When someone thinks about the, go on, Matt.
I was going to say, you can show them green or red. That's what everyone's default reverts to: green, good; red, bad. With the network simulator, you can see what's passing and what's failing very, very easily. That's typically what people like to see when you're looking at those kind of things. So yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Francois, I love you raising your hand in Zoom, so you know how to use this functionality. Go on, my friend.
I didn't want to cut you guys. Two comments I think could be useful for people here. Matthew mentioned doing a passive analysis to get the data. Well, if you've designed the network with Ekahau before and you've validated it with Ekahau, maybe you can reuse those validation surveys to run the simulator on top of it if the network hasn't changed too much. Second thing is, if you go on site to do a passive a survey of what you have to do the network simulator, make sure you stay close to the wall, because if you have to redesign, maybe you can use that data to run the wall attenuation detection tool.
Yeah, great tips there from Francois. Doing that, you can kill two birds with one stone and save time. And one thing that you said, Roy, as well, I just wanted to mention about the channel planner. The channel planner tool isn't just for your designs. So if you've collected validation survey, let's say you've been called in to assess a wireless network that's not performing too well, or you're doing your regular health check survey. Once you've collected that data, you can actually run the channel planner on your collected data of the access points that are on site, because perhaps maybe the RRM, the radio resource manager of the vendor's dashboard or controller that you're using, hasn't come up with the best channel plan. So you can run the channel planner on top of that to find out what would be the best channel plan for the currently installed access points. And that could be one of the quick wins to improve the Wi-Fi. Maybe you've got tons of contention and you could run the channel planner on top of that as well. So not sure if it's something everyone was aware of. Sometimes I think people think that the channel planner is just for designs, but actually you can use it on assessing Wi-Fi networks for validation files too.
Similarly to people thinking that one-to-one rip and replace network simulator can be done on a design, and we've always had that. So one-to-one replacement network simulator, it uses survey data actually to understand the environment. So when you replace the access points with new ones, it will use the validation data, okay? Because you've always could have just changed the model of the access point in your predictive designs. You need validation data from network simulator.
So it looks like your guys are very, very close to have Ekahau model the environment for us. Does it make sense? Because you could go on site, you could do a survey, and then you have the wall detection tools, and then you can tell us if the network is going to behave better. So in my thoughts, I'm thinking, okay, why don't you just draw the wall for us now, and model the environment for us? So we don't need to do this. We can just go on site, do a passive survey, and then click a button and have our environment with walls ready for us to redesign. Do you see where I'm
Francois,
going?
Yeah, this is a great point. And without revealing too much, let me just say that we are testing some crazy futuristic stuff that will make you smile a lot in the future.
Okay.
And let's stop it there. But we are aware of using the power of technology to our advantage. So we limit the number of steps we need to do in order to design or validate your Wi-Fi networks.
Anything we can do to speed up the process for our users and make working in Wi-Fi a more pleasant, fun experience, Ekahau is trying their hardest to do that. So let's just stay tuned on that and see what happens in the future. But I feel like it's probably time now, since we're talking about all this validation, data collection, that we should talk about our new hardware that came out this year, the Sidekick 2.
Let's totally do that, man. So Sidekick 2, I'm not sure about you guys, but this is also the stuff that I'm quite pumped up about, because let's be honest, the days of using dongles is gone. There we go. That's the beauty. Then we had Sidekick 1, amazing little device, which is still amazing. And then this beautiful Sidekick 2, it's slightly better across everything that Sidekick 1 was doing while adding 6 gigahertz to the equation. So let's talk about what's new. Matt, let's go through bullets about what's new in the Sidekick 2. That's two beautiful devices, Francois.
Yeah, Francois is such a good host. Have both of these prepared.
I'm doing a fashion show. The Sidekick fashion show.
Just in case if anyone's on the audio, we do have video up, and Francois is just showing the differences between both Sidekicks. So he's already got them ready to go.
Very much feels like if you do decide to come and watch it now, that you're watching one of those TV sales shows of the things you could, people hold up that you can buy. So just seeing both the Sidekicks there. So Matt,
do we get one free if we call right now?
Just give out your number, Francois, and get everyone to call you, and then you can tell them or not.
Go ahead.
Okay, let me just try and just cover at a high level some of the new things with the Sidekick 2. Well, first of all, I think the obvious one is the fact that it can now also validate your 6 gigahertz designs and installations and troubleshoot across 6 gigahertz now, because we can capture on 2.4, 5, and 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi frequency bands. So very, very important, especially for all of the future 6 gigahertz networks that are going to be deployed. The current ones are out there, but also it's not just amazing for 6 gigahertz. It's also fantastic if you just got 2.4 and 5 gigahertz networks there, because it goes from having 2 Wi-Fi radios in the current Sidekick to 4 Wi-Fi radios in the Sidekick 2, which can be configured to scan on 2.4, 5, 6 gigahertz, or 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, or 6 gigahertz alone, 5 gigahertz alone, 2.4 gigahertz alone, whatever's right for your particular environment. And it's incredibly fast, the speed that it scans through the channels as well. So collecting data at layer 2 on Wi-Fi radios, we've got 4 radios to do that now, which is just awesome. And of course, Spectrum Analyzer inside of it as well to capture data at layer 1. So detecting if you've got any Wi-Fi or non-Wi-Fi interference in your environment, looking at that beautiful spectrum and very high resolution across all 3 frequency bands. And it scans at an excessively fast rate, 50 sweeps per second. So it's insanely fast how fast the Spectrum Analyzer is inside of the Sidekick 2. So there's a couple of points.
Not like it was sluggish before, is it? And also it's it's so fast. It's fast to the point where the operating systems, they don't even allow us to use the full FPS to display how fast the Sidekick 2 is. It's that fast, guys. Yeah, so just wanted to add a very quick thing there. So there is a misconception on the market where you think about the number of channels that we now have to scan through and dwell for around 105 milliseconds on each to capture at least one beacon on each channel. And now we have around 14 channels on 2.4 that we go through, and around 25 on 5 gigahertz, and then up to 59 in states on 6 gigahertz spectrum band. If you add all of them together, we're looking at 88-ish channels. So that's why we have 4 radios. Yeah, so many channels. People, they think that they will have to revert back to stop and go surveys, and that is not the case. You can still walk fast around the office scanning all the channels and you are good to go. You will have all the channels scanned with a good enough frequency for you not to really break your survey accuracy. Nothing changes. Sidekick 1 on 2.4 and 5 scans your entire environment across these two bands in a similar amount of time to what Sidekick 2 scans all three bands with the additional 6 gigahertz channels. So this is very fast, okay? And also, you didn't mention, Matt, the spectrum analyzer is not only twice as fast across all three bands versus 2 bands in Sidekick 1, but also the resolution of this thing is so high now that pretty much your screen resolution becomes the bottleneck here, okay? So if you see something extremely narrow band, like you sometimes walk around and you see the motion detection systems that are
those tiny
extremely
little...
narrow. Yeah, you will see them in a high resolution now. You can even zoom in and see them with better resolution. So yeah, crazy spectrum analyzer.
One thing I wanted to talk with you guys about the scanning, because both Roel and I started to do some 6 gigahertz testing, and we realized that some client devices, they don't even scan 6 gigahertz. They discover the 6 gigahertz scanning 5 gigahertz and 2.4. So it, like the way I see things is we would really need to scan 6 gigahertz if we have a 6 gigahertz only AP without 5 gig and 2.4 radio enabled, right? But I think in most cases, shouldn't we be able to detect 6 gigahertz BSSIDs using reduced neighbor reports in beacons that we receive on 2.4 and 5 gigahertz? Is that something that you guys thought about?
Yeah, but that's still going to be sent on 5 gigahertz, right? So the information for like the RSSI and all that kind of information would be sent on 5 gigahertz. When you're collecting, if you've got a 6 gigahertz enabled access point, you want to collect that 6 gigahertz data on the 6 gigahertz radio of the Sidekick. So then you can see, is my 6 gigahertz coverage meeting my requirements? Do I have lots of co-channel interference on 6 gigahertz? So I know there's not like a ton of, difference between 5 and 6 gigahertz, maybe a few dBs, but it's still, if it's being sent out on 6 gigahertz, you want to capture on 6 gigahertz to know that information for sure and validate it is what you're expecting to see or not.
Yeah, but I think the question was if you would be able to rely on 6 gigahertz specific discovery mechanisms to display 6 gigahertz radios where you don't have beacons on that frequency band. Was that what you were asking about, Francois?
Well, I don't know if you have a beacon every time. In 6 gigahertz, I would guess
you won't have a beacon every time.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you won't have a beacon every time on 6 gigahertz because the default behavior for scanning of we will use those beacons, of course, if you have them in the air, but the default behavior will be to use echolocated channels or the PSC scanning channels in states, especially. Extremely quickly, guys, we have up to 59 channels on 6 gigahertz band, so we don't want to scan all of them in order to discover 6 gigahertz radios. So what do? We skip most of them. So we scan every 4th channel. I say our client devices, to discover 80 megahertz bonded channels, because in states we have so many channels that we can scan all of them. And you will have beacons at least on those channels, okay, for those devices to see them. And this is the default scanning behavior, actually, which you can change. You can scan all of the channels. If you have beacons on them, you will be able to see them. In Europe, it will be a little bit different because in Europe, we have around 25 channels, so same frequency bandwidth as on 5 gigahertz. And then we are scanning all the channels, and all of them, hopefully, will have beacons for in-band discovery purposes. And we will show them inside Ekahau as well.
And have you guys thought about the fields frames? Because we're seeing AP sending fields way faster than beacons. So you could think about scanning went faster than 105 milliseconds as well, right?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yes, I'm sure the team's looking at multiple different ways that you can speed up the channel scan times and stuff. So I'm sure they're taking into consideration everything. But I think that still the default behavior would probably still to wait for a beacon, because fields isn't necessarily required. Not all the access point vendors have to use fields, whereas all of them will be sending out beacons and stuff too. So I think it's probably be on the safe side to still capture the beacons. But we're still 6 gigahertz is still pretty much in its infancy and still learning new things about.
I know
that's and stuff. So
that's why I'm asking the questions, because we see a whole bunch of different things, different behaviors, different implementations. So it's like you said, it's still at the beginning. And as we go through it, we'll have a lot of questions, testing and stuff that we'll have to do to figure out.
I just have a gut feeling that fields will be disappearing from some of the vendors, at least by default. But now, yeah, we agree with tested like few vendors, like 4 or 5, and all of them are using fuels still.
Yeah, okay. It's funny.
So shall we move on?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. So let's move on to the remaining features of the Sidekick. But in the meantime, guys, like I just appreciate that we don't have too much time to talk about everything in detail. So if some of you have any questions about technicalities, about how things work with Ekahau from an algorithm perspective or whatever, drop us an email. I'm mac.deryng@ekahau.com and we have matt.starling@ekahau.com. We will be more than happy to answer everything for you. Okay. If you have a choice, always send an email to Matt, so I'm not too bothered. Okay.
That is very true as well. You're more likely to get a response from me than you are Mac, so probably send it to me.
No, I will always respond, but you are just faster because I'm scanning my email once a day and you scan it all the time.
Yeah. Well, some of the other features around the Sidekick too, and maybe we can talk a little bit about the hardware related side of things and the fact that, you know, one of the funny, I say it's a funny thing, but one of the things that people were most excited about was the change of going from using a micro USB cable to connect your device with the Sidekick. Originally, now we have a USB-C, so a very universal type of connection for your cable, but we use a USB-C connectivity for the Sidekick 2, and it's not at the bottom of the device, it goes into the top of the device. So yeah, that was one of the things that's been very very nicely received. It goes in very snug, so it doesn't come out, it doesn't get disconnected as you walk around. So they really thought hard and carefully about how to place the position of this port and USB-C connectivity. So works fantastic straight, if you've got a device to collect the data with, or using your survey app or analyzer application, and you've got a USB-C cable on your client device, you can just plug USB-C into USB-C. Really nice and easy.
And also it's very important, I think you can use whatever charger you have around that is strong enough. For example, if you have an iPhone charger or an iPad charger or a MacBook charger, whatever you use, most likely you will be able to use it to recharge your Sidekick rather fast. And just 1 hour of recharge gives you 4 hours of surveying using everything that Sidekick 2 has to offer. So it's fast to charge and the battery lasts for quite a long time. Okay, so it's quite nice. Actually, when it comes to the battery size, this is the biggest battery that you can theoretically take into the commercial airlines airplane.
And we've tested that out a few times now, and we've had no problems taking it through airport security and customs. It was almost, when I first took it through, I was almost a little bit disappointed they didn't question me, like, what is this device in your bag? I've not seen this before. Any opportunity to get out and to show someone and talk about it, but no, just let me straight through each time now. I've had no issue traveling with it. So yeah, I suppose it's a good thing really, but I just love talking about the Sidekick too.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys tested it, because that would be a concern for some people. And also having that USB new cable or new adapter there is going to be useful, not having to carry so many different chargers around with me. Lightens the load a bit.
Yeah, and also one last thing, it's like you have these two brackets on top of the Sidekick 2 that you can use to attach any photography or videography accessories that you normally use for your cameras or camcorders, and you can like attach it to your belt or wear it like you normally would wear a Sidekick. But now you don't have to buy a Sidekick specific things. You can go to any shop that sells photo stuff for your cameras, and you can grab any bracket or a strap that you like. Okay.
Is there any other questions around the Sidekick 2 that you guys wanted to ask us, that you wanted us to answer? We'll try and answer anyway, if you did have any.
Yeah, Francois, did you have one? I know we wrote down.
I like passing the ball. Do you have any questions, Francois? Do you have any? Matt,
so, yeah, I don't have right now, but I did have questions at the beginning that I asked Matt. Maybe I can ask them on the show so you can tell everyone. But some people were wondering if you could use the Sidekick battery to, let's say, charge your iPad when you're surfing, or the other way around. Can you use your iPad battery to charge your Sidekick?
Not yet.
Yeah, so I know the answer is no. So right now, the connection is just for data. So the battery, like the Sidekick battery will be used for the Sidekick, and your iPad battery will be used for your iPad type of things.
And battery life of both devices, they are very similar actually. So if you're using your iPad and your Sidekick at 100%, you will go through multiple hours of continuous surveying. if that's what you're doing, because typically after 2 hours I need a break for, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Yeah, you find that your internal battery dies before your devices now, whereas it used to be the other way around. Before, when you had a laptop and dongles, your device would die after an hour or two, and you need to go back at lunchtime, charge it up whilst you were having your lunch break, and then carry on surveying. But now you need to recharge yourself
you need
rather
to
than your
rest.
devices.
I highly encourage people to take a break in between, while you're doing a long survey, and then just charge the battery while you're taking a break, having lunch or something.
That's it. Okay, guys. So one last thing before we move to the next topic. Francois, I'll come back to you in a sec. If you have Sidekick 1, because the question that we very often have is, I have a Sidekick 1. Do I need to buy a Sidekick 2? And the short answer is, of course, buy Sidekick 2. Buy 2 of them, or 3 if you want. But Sidekick 1 still works, okay? It's a great device for 2.4 and 5. So if you don't have a need for 6 gigs, your Sidekick 1 is amazing. If you do, then you have to go for Sidekick 2. And also, I would take it one step further. If you have a mixture of Sidekick 1s and Sidekick 2s in your company, they are both extremely similar when it comes to the RF performance, to the point where you can do a survey of 2.4 and 5 gigahertz bands with 2 devices at the same time, join survey results, and it will still be good enough. Okay, so that's still tons of life inside the Sidekick.
Yeah, and another really great use for the original Sidekick is if you've got multiple sites, or even if you've got one site and you've not upgraded 6 gigahertz yet, or you've got some sites that are not 6 gigahertz yet, regularly performing health check surveys. So going and checking your environments to see what's changed, you can still do that with your original Sidekick. So maybe you've got some new deployments with 6 gigahertz that you want to do a new Sidekick 2 with, but for any of your current sites that still haven't been upgraded yet, then you can still, use the original Sidekick to go and survey those with that Sidekick, and then find any anomalies, any changes in the environment, and make sure you keep all of your sites high performing, not all the ones that just been newly deployed and designed, but any of your current sites. And it's just one of the things that I think maybe unfortunately gets overlooked is the regular health check survey. So if you've got an extra piece of toolkit in your arsenal, like the Sidekick and the Sidekick 2, it's just making sure you go and check those sites more regularly. And because it's incredible how much changes happen to some of the sites without you being aware of. People bringing in devices, physical changes in the environment, new sources of interference that can take down the performance of your network. And everyone knows that Wi-Fi is the number one form of connectivity for businesses these days. So if your Wi-Fi is not performing, then your users aren't going to be able to perform, your business is going to slow down. And this way you can really stay on top of it.
I really like how you sneak in the Arsenal word into your descriptions.
I saw Francois.
And also when you said you can use Sidekick 1 for, and I thought I was 100% sure that you will say that you can use Sidekick 1 as your coffee heating machine.
Well, why don't we...
Francois, was there something specific you wanted to say before, or you forgot about it already?
No. Yes.
He didn't raise his hand.
Yeah, it was. I didn't raise my hand first, but it wasn't something very important. I was just wondering if you guys have ever tried to charge your Sidekick as you were connecting it to your iPad. I know it's a random thought, but I don't know if it works.
No, I've not tried it because honestly the battery is so insane on the Sidekick 2. I've never got to a point where I needed to. So I haven't tried it out, but maybe I can try it. Or since you've got one there, you could try it out yourself. But
I'll let us know. Okay,
so let's move to.
I was going to say, let's move to the mobile applications, because there's been some big updates to our mobile applications this year as well. So we can maybe just cover those quickly. First, obviously, with the survey application is if you're not familiar with Ekahau AI Pro is our software that you would design, you can analyze, you can do surveys with Ekahau AI Pro running on your Windows or your Mac OS devices. But we also have mobile applications that run on iOS and Android. So that's survey application and the Android application. So survey is what you would use for the data collection.
Survey and analyzer.
Yeah, was that not what I said?
No, you said survey and Android.
You said Arsenal. That's what I heard. Arsenal. That's what I heard.
Sorry, I meant to say that you've got you can both survey and analyzer run on iOS and Android. And first of all, the survey application has been updated to obviously support 6 gigahertz with our brand new Sidekick 2, and it's also very unified between Ekahau AI Pro and the mobile applications now. So for me, I remember when the first webinar come out before we joined Ekahau, when they announced that you could capture survey data using an iPad. As soon as the webinar finished, I went onto the Apple Store and bought my first iPad, and I still have the iPad that I used today actually for capturing survey data, because not having to carry around a laptop anymore now, using your tablet is just such a game changer for me. It's so lightweight, so mobile. Also, you can use your mobile phone. So if you've got an iPhone or an Android phone as well, you can use that for the data collection. And if you've not tried out using autopilot surveys yet, we couldn't recommend that feature highly enough. It's our favorite way of collecting our survey data now. It's insanely accurate, especially if you're using an iOS device that supports LiDAR. You don't need to be tapping on your device to tell Ekahau where you are. It can use those inbuilt functions and features to automatically map out where you're traversing around the site, which saves a ton of time as well.
I must say that I agree 100%, especially with the autopilot stuff and the convenience of having the mobile device. Also, it allows you to walk around, focus on the survey, first run around your site. Then you probably want to walk around for the second time to move all the access points to the real exact locations. And sometimes you'll want to snap a picture of that access point with your tablet and a phone. And with a tablet and a phone, it's easy. With a laptop, you can still do it, but it's cumbersome, okay? So it's super convenient. Also, using the pen to scribble on top of your picture is possible. I like to use it a lot to get all the information, physical information about the site that I'm surveying in. So that's the survey application, guys. Honestly, use it. It is amazing, and it doesn't matter what screen size you have. It's a personal preference. You can smash it regardless. Cool. Anything else that we want to add about the survey application?
No, I'm dying to talk about the Analyzer application, to be honest.
Cool. Let's do it then.
Let's do it.
So the Analyzer applications, it really has now turned into this troubleshooting powerhouse of an application. Really recently, it had some really big updates to it. So of course, obviously supporting features like 6 gigahertz with Sidekick 2, but also what you'd use the Analyzer application for is like that on-the-spot troubleshooting. So you can do spectral analysis on your mobile device, so you can see if you've got any like non-Wi-Fi interference lurking around, like those passive infrared devices Mac mentioned earlier, video cameras, microwave ovens, etc., etc. You can see things like roaming candidates, which access points you've roamed from before, previously, and the ones that you could potentially roam to as well, which to be able to see that information from your client device perspective as well is really, really handy. I like that feature a lot. But again, I think the feature that we're most excited about is the network overview feature, where you can,
AKA the expert view.
Yeah, where you can now see how the Wi-Fi network in the environment that you're sitting in has been configured. So you can see a lot more information that's coming from the beacon. So you can see things like what's detail about the security amendments, the how many stations,
data rates, channel utilization.
Yeah, from the channel utilization, but not just from how the Sidekick is seeing it from the spectrum analyzer's perspective, but also from how the access point is reporting it from the QBSS element as well. So how your access points are detecting how busy the channel is that you're on. So for me, now I can quite happily and comfortably leave my laptop at home, and I can just take my iPad and my Sidekick 2 to go on site, and I can survey the site. I can, with the survey application, even if I don't have the floor plans, you can import the floor plan, you can scale the floor plan, you can do the survey on the survey application. You can take photos of all your access points, all on the survey application. But then now with the Analyzer application, not only can you detect for any kind of interference you might have, you can just troubleshoot to a whole new expert level using the application, which for me was a massive game changer. Because Roel, you said you'd like to take things out of your backpack to keep it as light as possible, and now with this update to the Analyzer application, I feel super confident and comfortable to just take my iPad, Sidekick 2, go on site, and I know there's nothing that I'm not going to be able to not be able to do.
Oh yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't used the Ekahau Analyzer app in a while, so I think this means I need to take another look and give it a shot.
Yeah, it came a long way. I think this year the few updates that came out are really nice. I like it as a troubleshooting tool, because you can also, like, if the iPad or the iPhone is like, or even the Android phone is a critical device, you can also test the connectivity, so you can know which AP your device is connected to. You can see the roaming candidates, you can see the roaming history as well. So if users are complaining about roaming, you can do a survey to analyze like secondary signal strength, and you can do application testing directly from the Analyzer app to see to kind of try to assess what's going on, or
Yes, but since you've mentioned Analyzer app and roaming troubleshooting, I'm obliged to tell you that, and it's not a product review release, it's just a secret information for the listeners to the Clear to Send podcast guys. Capturing Wi-Fi frames will come to Analyzer with a Sidekick 2, where you will be able to capture on 4 channels simultaneously. Okay, so imagine troubleshooting roaming then, assuming that you know how to read frame captures. Then
come on, our listeners know that. Come on, man.
Yeah, of course.
And one thing to add to that is that up to 106 megahertz wide as well. Channel width, so you can capture on 4 different channels at the same time, and up to 106 megahertz wide. That's something that's coming in the future. It's not something that we've revealed. Actually, someone in our beloved product team, Miko, sneaked out a little preview of that on Twitter recently. So that was actually how we first saw it too. So make sure everyone's following Miko for the sneak early releases of stuff, even before the people at Ekahau know about. You need to stay following him to get all of those secret updates quickly.
Yeah, that's why I followed Miko as well.
So how do you transfer the PCAP from the tablet or the phone to your machine?
We don't know any of that detailed information yet, I'm afraid. Though I have to wait until we actually release it properly on like one of our Ekahau webinars and stuff. At the moment, what we've told you is pretty much all that we know right now. We just know it's coming soon, being able to capture on 4 channels at the same time simultaneously and up to 106 megahertz wide. The details about how you would transfer that and stuff, I'm afraid we don't know right now, but I'm sure there'll be a very simple, easy way that you'll be able to do it.
And I'm guessing you'll be able to do AX packet capture on 5 gigahertz as well with the same ratings.
Oh, yeah. Of course. Okay. Also, you will be able to capture most of the new stuff. Like, if Wi-Fi 7 comes out, we have so many radios, we will be able to.
We've heard about Wi-Fi 8 this weekend.
Yeah, they're talking about Wi-Fi 8.
Well, Wi-Fi 8 already. There we go.
I know we're joking, but some people might be worried. Oh my God, I'm just buying a Sidekick 2 that's Wi-Fi 6 on 6 gigahertz and 2.4 on 5 gigahertz, but there's Wi-Fi 7, Wi-Fi 8 coming out. Do I need to wait and buy another Sidekick that can do Wi-Fi 7, Wi-Fi 8? And the answer is no, because the way Wi-Fi works is, and the nature of the beast is that it's backward compatible. So any future releases of Wi-Fi has to be able to inform previous releases of Wi-Fi about it effectively. Otherwise, it would never know how what's going on. So with your Sidekick 2 or even your original Sidekick, they'll be able to hear these beacons coming from future Wi-Fi iterations and understand that that's what's being sent out. So
yeah, legacy support.
Legacy support is there. So don't panic if you thinking, I need to hold off and buy one. You don't need to do that. You
need to buy 3, because when your first one gets a scratch, then you switch to the second one. That's what you need to do. Okay, so that's a wrap when it comes to to the mobile applications and Sidekicks and AI Pros. So the last thing to briefly mention, last 3
things to briefly mention. And since I know what you're going to say. I know what you've about to say about the private 5G planner, but since we're talking about cloud-based solutions, we also have Ekahau Insights. And there's just a couple of things I wanted to mention about Ekahau Insights, because if you may have used it before when it first came out, and you might have just been using this for transferring data between your devices. So between your let's say your laptop to transfer your file to your iPad to go and do the survey on, etc., etc. But Ekahau Insights is way more powerful than that. It's got incredible AI in the background, like analyzing your networks and giving you a real great overview of all of your networks that you've surveyed. You can use tags. Perhaps there's one particular customer that you do regular surveys at across their sites. You could give them a tag and then just see how their network's performing when you did those surveys. But not only validation files, design files too, you can put into Ekahau Insights. And one of the things that I still get asked about that people tell me they didn't realize is that with Ekahau Insights, you can share a guest access link to anyone that doesn't have an Ekahau license. And when you send that link to them, they can actively interact with the file. So what I mean by that is they can look at multiple different heat map visualizations from signal strength, secondary signal strength, co-channel interference, network health. They can interact with individual access points and see their single coverage coming from an access point. If there's
a picture or an AP note as well.
Yeah, exactly. If the people on site have taken pictures of the access points and made some notes, you can view them. If you have got some specific installation notes for the access point, so I know Francois and Roy, I've seen you guys do this before. You take pictures of where the access point is supposed to be installed. You might highlight on the image, I put the AP exactly here. I know you're extremely precise and about those kind of things. So you can give those like instructions, like it needs to go at 5 meters high, it needs to go on the ceiling, it needs to have a bracket, it needs to do this, that, and the other. You can put all of that information there, and you could share that with the installation team. Because what I see a lot of the installation team doing is that back in the day, showing our age a little bit here, when we used to use Ekahau previously before, going back a few years, and you'd provide your plans to the installation team, what would they do? They print off these huge sheets of paper, and then they would carry them around so they can see where the access point locations were, and then they would fold up that paper into like 8 squares and tuck it into their back pocket and then move around to go put up the access point. What I see them do now is they all have tablets. So what they can do is they could open up the Ekahau Insights on their tablet, see where the access points are, the specific mounting. It just makes it easier for them as well. So it's great for using Insights for reporting and for, you know, designs, validations, sharing with your team. You can set up groups as well. So one click of a button, they're clear to send, guys. You can share your files instantly without having to add individual email addresses. So it's really just really convenient and really powerful tool that I personally don't think many people are leveraging to its full capabilities right now.
True. And also when I said that there is like one more thing to do to wrap up, it wasn't Ekahau private cellular. It was the ECSE guys. So if you have enjoyed the information that you've heard today and you would like to add some nice theory behind it, so you not only know what we have in the tools and how to use the tools, but you also understand what these tools do in the background, and you know how to troubleshoot the Wi-Fi network, how to properly design it, get design principles, know more about Wi-Fi and comfortably talk about it, land more sales and stuff like that, then we honestly encourage you to see the ECSE courses, starting with ECSE design. I feel a little bit guilty saying that it's an entry-level class, because for us, everyone that is technical can sit the ECSE design, but it's packed with stuff. It's like, it feels like drinking from a fire hose quite often, but it's absolutely amazing, eyes-opening, and I love teaching this class. Matthew loves teaching this class. I hope that Francois can say that he loves teaching this class. Francois, what do you think? I'm watching you.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really good class. It's a really good class. Everything you said is good. I agree with you.
Even I recommend people to take ECSE just because
you learn a lot.
I sometimes get questions about Ekahau, and I can tell that those people could benefit from taking the class, because there are a lot of features, and you want to be sure you use Ekahau correctly, so that way you have accurate designs, you have accurate validation surveys. So I think taking ECSE is highly beneficial for people.
It's also very practical, so it's easier for the students to kind of learn about things because they get to practice a lot.
Yeah, thank you, Roel, for saying that, and obviously Francois for saying that you enjoy teaching the classes. But yeah, ECSE design was one of the very first things when we joined Ekahau, as we were tasked with updating that to, you know, making sure that it was covering 6 gigahertz, but also, you know, AI Pro has got so many new features and lots of things to learn. So our ECSE design class was updated with 6 gigahertz plus all of our new features around Ekahau AI Pro and our mobile applications. And then also this year as well, ECSE troubleshooting got a very big update too, to again, because our applications have been updated to give you those additional features and functionality to be able to troubleshoot. The ECSE troubleshooting course was updated as well. So really amazing class, both of those 2 classes. And then our advanced class, which I know one of the classes that you love teaching as well, Francois, has also been updated to include 6 gigahertz too. And the other thing about ECSE that we launched this year was one new way to get recertified. So before, if you had an ECSE design certification, if you took another ECSE class, like let's say advanced or troubleshooting, it would automatically renew your previous ECSE certification status for an additional 3 years, no matter what that previous course was. But we understood that some of the feedback was sometimes people didn't want to sit another 4-day class again to renew, maybe they're just interested in ECSE design. So we released something new this year called our ECSE recertification program, which is a video on demand self-paced training course that you can go onto our Ekahau website to watch. And then at the end of the videos, you can take an exam. And if you pass that exam, it will renew your certification statuses for your ECSE as well. So quite a few big updates for ECSE this year too, which we were really excited about. So yeah, just wanted to bring that up before we finally talk about the private 5G plan in a little bit more detail, unless you guys have some more questions around ECSE.
What about WLPC? Are you guys teaching the ECSE courses as a bootcamp this year?
Yeah, we're always at the Ekahau, and ECSE is fortunate enough to always be at WLPC. So the last couple ones, me and Mac were both there in Prague and in Phoenix. And I think it's at a stage where people are voting to get in what they want to have on at WLPC. And we've been told so far that ECSEs have been voted in again. So if enough people actually not just vote for them to be in, but actually select them to sit, then ECSEs will be running at the WLPC Phoenix 2023.
Yeah, and it's in-person classes, of course. And oh my God, guys, I love teaching in-person classes. It's so nice to look students in the eye, see who's asleep, continue doing what you're doing so everyone is asleep. And then from a teacher's perspective, you don't have to talk anymore. Amazing stuff. And of course, I'm joking. I really love the vibe of in-person class teaching. So if you like it, WLPC is a great way for you to try it out and sit your first ECSE class, or a second, or a third.
Yeah, well, just to clarify on that, we offer both virtual classes and in-person classes. So if you have a preference that maybe you would enjoy the fact that you can just join the class from the comfort of your own home or your office and not need to travel, then we have virtual classes. But if you are someone that likes to go physically in person to a class to maybe get away from some of those distractions around the office or at home, then we offer those as well. So whatever best suits your preferences, we have options available to you.
Cool. Perfect. So I feel like that's a wrap about ECSE. So last but not least, we have a new product announced. It's called the Ekahau Private 5G, and that's a web-based tool. But by the way, if you lose internet access, you will still be able to use it, where you can design for 5G, 4G, private mobile networks, pretty much. You also have some more protocols there, more technologies that you can design against, but let's discover it on your own. Try it out. If you have a connectivity subscription, download the app, or not download the app, get access to the app by getting to the form and putting down your details, and then use it and fall in love with designing for not only Wi-Fi, but also for private cellular. And the thing is that if you are comfortable and familiar with designing for Wi-Fi, you already know how to design for private 5G. And yeah,
so what's the link? What's the link in the description?
Yeah,
link in the description. Yeah, let's put it there.
We'll give you guys the link so you can put it in the description for people to fill out the form. So yeah, anyone that's got a current Ekahau Connect license, you'll get free access to the private 5G planner for 1 year. And if you purchase Ekahau and Ekahau Connect license this year before December 31st, you get free access for a whole year, which I think is really nice. So people can maybe people are just starting to dip their toe into the private 5G world, and you just want to kind of feel it out and get a little bit used to it as things start to ramp up a bit for private 5G. So I think that's really nice. And there's some really nice features in there that Mac mentioned earlier around our assisted planner. So as you start to place your private 5G access points around, you'll see some other recommendations pop up, and the auto wall detection for like JPEG files and bitmap files and stuff. So you upload your floor plan and it'll automatically detect the walls for you. So with Ekahau now, you can plan Wi-Fi networks, private 5G networks. We've got our mobile applications, Ekahau Insights, and our Sidekick too. So what a whirlwind of a year. And just want to say a big shout out to all the product team at Ekahau and everyone else that's been working behind the scenes. Is that I didn't really grasp or understand, how much work goes into. I've never worked for a vendor before. So when we joined Ekahau, and you kind of can peek behind the curtain and see how much work actually goes on to the constant innovation and updates, and so much thought goes into everything, and everyone looks at the feedback from our users and always trying to improve the products to make it best for our users and stuff. So what I think I've seen that's been really nice recently is there's a few features that have gone into, say, like things like Ekahau AI Pro that have been recommendations from our users. And then when we've seen people be told, oh, by the way, that feature request you made or that suggestion you said, it's in the latest version. And they're like, oh my God, no way. What I suggested is in my favorite software to use. So that's just something that's really nice to see.
Thankfully, they have hammocks in Helsinki office where the product team sits, so they don't even have to go home. They can just work 24/7.
That's what it feels like. The amount
I'm sure they do that in Finland. Sure.
It
honestly
was a work-life balance.
Yeah, it honestly feels like they must have to with the amount of innovations that's come out this year. If we just summarize or recap, that's AI Pro came out with 6 gigahertz software, design software, loads of new features to automate and speed up your workflows. Sidekick 2 hardware device that makes it amazing to capture, validate your Wi-Fi designs across 2.4, 5, and 6 gigahertz. Massive updates to our mobile applications to make our mobile applications, amazing for our users to use from a troubleshooting perspective and also for the data collection. Ekahau Insights, again, amazing tool. We use it for reporting. Just send that guest access link to the stakeholders that you're doing the design for, all the validation, and they can just view it inside of their browser with no Ekahau license required. And then finally, last but not least, releasing the Ekahau private 5G planner as well. That's crazy amount of products to come out in the space of 1 year. I'm not sure if what's going to happen in 2023, Mac, if we're going to be able to keep up with what comes out in 2023, but I'm looking forward to it. That's for sure.
Yeah, let's see. It's like, man, we have 12 months, so if we have 24 releases, that's fine. We can still keep up, right?
A lot of stuff to keep up with, guys, honestly.
It's quite funny. Before the show started, we asked Francois and Roel, I was like, guys, how long do you want us to keep the podcast to? We'll try and keep it as short as possible. Let's definitely stay within 1 hour. People don't like to listen to things too long now, and I'm looking at how long we're taking. So anyone that stayed on and listened to this long, a massive thank you to you guys for staying on listening to us ramble on for however long we've been. I hope it's not too much over what you would like to listen to, and hopefully you found some of this information useful. If you want to know any more about Ekahau, obviously just head over to the Ekahau website. You can request a demo for any of the things we spoke about, or if you want to know anything in more detail, Mac gave you his email address earlier. Just email him anytime and he'll respond to any of your.
Or you can find Francois' email on cleartosend.net, or you can search against Ekahau keyword on their massively amazing, smashing podcast. And Francois will also be able to answer everything because he's an ECSE teacher. So if he's your number one preference, go to Francois.
I'll implement an automatic forward policy in my emails and send it back to you.
Or send it to Roel.
Francois, Roel, have we answered all the questions that you guys had for us today? Was there anything else that you wanted to ask us before we wrap up today?
No, I think you guys covered so much, and I think if other people have questions, they can leave a comment down at the show notes. We'll include a link in the description of this video where you can find that, or even ask your questions on the comment section of the video. I think there's a lot to cover, a lot that we went over, that you guys went over in this course of a little bit over an hour. But it just shows that there's so much to Wi-Fi. There's so much to Ekahau that everyone's just constantly trying to be better and reinvent things to be more efficient. So it can only get better from here, right? As long as we can always provide feedback to people and be always helpful to others. There's so much going on, really.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to say a huge thank you for having us on here. It's been a massive honor and pleasure to be on with you guys. We love listening to you. So anytime we could come on the show, and this time to talk about Ekahau, it's been a real blast for me. I don't know about you, Mac.
Yeah, but man, well, I'm sure that since we've overrun the 1 hour threshold, we will not be invited to Clear to Send again. But anyway, guys, it was really, really nice having a chat with you, seeing you again. Hopefully not for the last time.
No, it was great to have you guys.
Cool. Thanks, guys. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.